pledges.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor to the flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one indivisible.
All right. And just to make sure that you guys have all got enough exercise, would all of the veterans please stand? Give us the branch of the service and the years that you were in the service.
Maurice Simpson, United States Navy, active duty 1962, 64, active reserve 1961 to 1972.
U.S. Navy submarine.
Gentlemen, thank you very, very much for all your service. We appreciate it very much. I'd also like to ask if there's any elected officials, if they would stand and give us your name and the position you're holding currently. Anybody?
Katie Lang, County Clerk.
Anybody running for elected office that would like to stand and announce what you're running for?
I'm Jean Hart, and I'm running for County Commissioner Precinct 1. Sarah Head, I'm running for Tax Assessor 23.
For required, I'm running for County Commissioner Precinct 3. I'm Kelly Van Buren, I'm also running for County Commissioner Precinct 4.
Matt Mills running for Hood County Attorney.
I think precinct 3 is going to be like the Republican presidential debate precinct.
I'm here for my husband, Mike Lang. He's running for House District 60.
Anybody else?
Are you ready for precinct chair or precinct 13?
Yes, I am, by the way. See what else I can get into. All right.
Get them all this time.
Chair. All right. Okay. For any public announcements that anybody would like to make at this point in time? Any public announcements? Okay. All right. None. Dave, did you have a few things that you wanted to talk about real quick?
Yeah, my name's Dave Eagle. Just wanted to, speaking of precinct chairs, everybody in this room lives in different areas of the county, and we have 15 different precincts, actually 14 different voting precincts. And right now we have a precinct chairs open in the following precincts. Precinct 2, Precinct 5, 6, which is total, and Precinct 12. So if anybody lives in those areas and has an interest in getting involved, more than coming to the Tea Party meeting, get involved in your local politics, I urge you to do so. And you can get a hold of me if you got any questions. The precinct chairman is part of the executive committee of the Republican Party here. If you become a precinct chair, and it's pretty interesting to go to the precinct convention and the county convention to see the power that the precinct chair has with the votes. So get involved and let me know if you've got any interest in these areas. Thank you.
Something to note on the precinct chairs and that involvement. So the Republican Party platform, and just in case you're not aware of how that gets filtered up, is it starts at the precinct level. So any of the platform issues that you want to get on the Republican Party platform usually start there, work their way up through your Senate district, and then up to the Republican Party in Texas. So that precinct chair is a very influential place to start, and it helps kick off what does the Republican Party of Texas believe in and want to support, okay? And want to advocate. Okay? So it's an interesting place to start. With that, just as kind of an educational or a discussion purpose, I've kind of written, over the last couple of weeks, I've written one editorial in the Hood County News, very critical of the county commissioners and some of our local elected officials, in particular for a couple of reasons I'll explain in just a second. But also recently I sent out an email asking that the Tea Party participate in a no confidence vote on our elected House Representative, Mike Conaway. And I'll kind of discuss that as we go through here just for a second, because I want to make sure everybody understands. Every time we get into these issues of, we've got problems with government out of control, everybody says elections have consequences. And I would advocate that our form of government was designed to minimize and contain those consequences. So when they say, well, we've got a president that is out of control, elections have consequences, we just need to elect a new president. Would you say that that's true or false? False. Why is that? Exactly. We have a system of checks and balances in this country, and our representatives are there to do one thing. What is that? Yeah, I ask you, so listen to this and see if this sounds familiar. I, state your name, do solemnly swear to, or affirm that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to do the same, that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will and faithfully discharge the duties of that office on which I am about to enter, so help me God. Does that sound familiar?
Yeah.
What is that? That's the oath of office that our Representative Conaway has taken every election cycle that he's been elected. Does that say anywhere in there that elections have consequences and that our votes don't count? So, at this point in time, our district is very large. It's difficult to find somebody to run against him at this point in time. What I am advocating is that we hold his feet to the fire and say, listen, this district is one of the most conservative districts in the entire country. He admits this, but he does not represent us. He's flatly told us to our face that we have to negotiate. That oath of office doesn't say we negotiate. It says that he defends the Constitution against enemies foreign and domestic. So, with that, I'm going to also post this and send it out. And if you guys want copies of this, I'm going to give you a little... I came across this quite by accident today. Does everybody know what committee Conaway chairs? Agriculture. Okay, so in 2013, what do you think Judicial Watch came out with? From Freedom of Information Act request, which our friend Mr. Eagle is very familiar with, they came up with the fact that there was correspondence and money going to the Mexican government to educate illegals on the Mexican side of the border and this side of the border how to take advantage of our SNAP program. Who runs the SNAP program? Who's in charge of oversight on the Department of Agriculture? Conaway. So, one of the things that it says is that in this, defend us against all enemies, foreign and domestic. What's the definition of an invasion? You guys know? An invasion is a military offensive in which a large part of combatants of one geopolitical entity aggressively enter territory controlled by another such entity, generally with the objective of either conquering, liberating, or reestablishing control or authority over a territory, forcing the partition of a country, altering the established government, or gaining concessions from a said government or combination thereof. An invasion can be a cause of war, be a part of a larger strategy to end a war, or it can constitute an entire war in itself. Due to the large scale of operations associated with invasions, they are usually strategic in planning and execution. So, is our representative actively funding an invasion of this country? Okay? Why are we allowing him to continue doing that and telling us that he will not uphold our rights? That oath of office didn't say fund an invasion, did it? So I'm just advocating to you guys, as you come in here, and I'm preaching to the choir about what's going on, but elections do not have consequences in our system of government. We have the right to demand that our representation do what they swore to do. And if all of us sit down and just accept that, then he's going to keep doing what he's been doing. And a little bit further. So once you start going down these rabbit holes, then you start getting even more concerned. So another group along these lines, La Raza. Does everybody know who La Raza is?
Yes.
What does that mean? The race. So if it's the race, what race are they referring to? Hispanics. Okay? So if I created a group, the whites, would I get the same consideration as this group? No. So, let me give you an example. Because La Raza is openly advocating invasion of this country as well. Who do you think is on the corporate board of advisors? Would this list surprise you? Comcast, AT&T, Bank of America, Chevron, Citi, Coca-Cola, ConAgra Foods, Ford Motor Company, General Mills, General Motors, Johnson & Johnson, J.P. Morgan & Chase, Kraft, McDonald's, Miller Coors, Pepsi, Prudential, Shell, State Farm, Time Warner, Toyota, UPS, Verizon, Walmart, and Wells Fargo. Who's the last one that's on the list that I haven't mentioned yet? Everybody in this room. The federal government funds this group through the Department of Education. Okay? So, our elected representative just signed off on another omnibus spending bill in which they demanded no concessions from the administration stop the invasion of this country. And they made it even worse. They funded him for the rest of his term and beyond into the next term. So now, what has Conway effectively done? He has said they will not impeach any elected official that is corrupt from Obama on down. And he said he's not going to cut funding to any department. So what are our two powers in the representative government? Impeachment and funding. He's now said that we have no representation in Congress. Do we intend to continue accepting that from him? That's why I'm so adamant that I would like you guys to go onto our website and support the no confidence vote. Because let me make it clear, once you get to a certain number of no confidence votes, people start to pay attention to that. He has to pay attention to that. Yeah, he can get funding and run, but once the district starts saying, we don't support you, people start paying attention. Then he has to start listening. How many of you have been to his town halls? Is it useful?
No.
How many of you have called his office? Is it useful?
No.
How many of you filled out emails on his website? Is it useful?
No.
Why do we tolerate it? For the most part, I know you guys have been a little vocal at the town halls, but has it changed anything? He sets the rules for the town halls, but who does he report to? Us. I am adamantly opposed to continuing this path of insanity where our country's going over the cliff, and we've got a guy that should be one of the most conservative vocal advocates of our rights in Congress, and he's sitting there telling us, sorry, there's nothing I can do. That's not true. Then he needs to resign and go home. The game is far too gone to have people in office like that. Which leads me to the next one. The county commissioners. Let me read you this one. And I've read it to them. I, state your name, do solemnly swear or affirm that I will faithfully execute the duties of the office of the state of Texas. and will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution and laws of the United States and of this state. So help me God. Okay? So, Supreme Court ruling. Opinion or law? Opinion. Okay? State Constitution of Texas. What is the definition of marriage? Man and a woman. Has that been changed?
No.
Okay. So, when the county commissioners say that they won't stick their neck out because of what? They don't want to get sued. That's not what they swore to do. They swore to defend our rights. The Constitution is what? It's a social compact of this country and this state. It says what the government cannot do to us. And if our elected officials will not stand up and uphold that, then of what value are they?
None.
None. And I'm advocating right now that we get control of this situation before it becomes too late. Because in discussions with these guys, Mr. Eagle and I have had back and forth, these guys, one, are open to going out and getting more federal tax dollars. So what comes with those federal tax dollars?
Tax strings.
Strings. That means the federal government encroaches on our rights even more. These guys have already shown a lack of propensity to stand up for our rights. And then a county attorney who can't even articulate natural law or state constitution or anything else and surrenders. We need a new county attorney, and that's pretty clear. Okay? So, I'm just advocating right now. Everybody sits here calm, and I know I tell Donna all the time the happy warrior status. The hour is getting late. Yes, ma'am.
I was going to tell you, I was going to say that I have been through 4, maybe 5 commissioners' court.
Uh-huh.
Matt was on one of them. He tried to get them to be conservative. No way. The ones you got now, there's only one that's halfway decent. Jeff, and he's leaving because he can't stand what they're doing. And there's a little thing being cooked up for Barry to take the judge's spot.
Yeah.
And he's the worst one of them.
Yeah, I agree. So, along those lines, this is the other thing that I'm not necessarily an advocate of. They say that you have to go out and you have to get the right guy.
Well, you never know.
Here's the issue. Are most elected officials the lead, or are they the tail that the dog wags? Okay, so if the people don't show up and demand it, now we've had some fairly full commissioners' courts in the past few months. But are we on that all the time? No. So it's not the people, it's the people in this room. Are we demanding that our rights be upheld? No. Okay, so be cognizant of that. Katie?
Okay, so they're not willing to stand for same-sex marriage, but in the paper, the county judge is all about the sheriff putting on "In God We Trust" on the sheriff's cars, and so that is the same.
In God we trust.
It's the same, or "In God We Trust," and that's the same stance for religious freedom. So he's willing to stand for the sheriff, but he's not willing to stand for the county clerk, and you know, he doesn't see the difference.
Well, and I would advocate, I've listened to the county judge enough to know he's incoherent as well. Might as well be schizophrenic in the answers that he's given.
Barry tells him what to do.
Yeah, and again, the taxpayers of Hood County, are we demanding that they change what they're doing? No. I advocate that all of you get very vocal with these guys. You can do it in a polite fashion, but it's our rights that we're allowing to be eroded, and that needs to stop. Because nobody, they swore an oath. I don't know if they understood it.
No.
Pretty sure they don't.
Okay.
But the last thing, because we're coming into a time of year when you're going to be evaluating a lot of candidates. And if you've seen Rafael Cruz, maybe talk to Maurice or a couple of others, there's very quick and easy way to figure out who you want to be a representative for you. There's 4 qualifications that they would advocate. Able men, fear of God, men of truth, and hating covetousness or unjust gain. And I would challenge you to take a look at everybody that's asking for your vote in those categories. And I'll use Conway as a real quick example. Able men. That means, from the founder's perspective, that they're competent in negotiation, administration, and legislation. How much legislation has Conway actually passed that's of any significance to us other than his pocket? None that you guys can probably find. Administration. He's already proven that oversight on the Ag Committee is useless. Okay? And negotiation. He surrenders every time it comes up for our positions, so he's not very good at negotiation either. And then I would say the last one that Adam's also advocating is understanding war. So with the recent thing with the veterans and the VA hospital, what's the status on fixing the VA? Spent a lot more money on it. You know what they highlighted yesterday and the day before from the VA side? They opened the first transgender VA hospital up in Ohio, I believe. That's their priorities. So, an able man, is Conway fit that characteristic? No. He fails every time. Fear God? What does that refer to? This oath of office that I read you? Why did the founders put that oath of office in there? Is that oath between the representative and us, or who? The representative and God. If he's made this numerous times and does not uphold that, and I would challenge, he says he's a Christian. That's where he gets around with. He's a friendly guy, he's a Christian. If he doesn't uphold this oath, does he fear God? No. He doesn't care what God thinks of what he does. Okay? So then, men of truth. Do you think there's any truth in what he says?
No.
Okay. And then the last one, hating covetousness or unjust gain. Who profits more by his being our representative? Us or him? Okay. So that answers the 4 questions, doesn't it? Pretty quickly. Take a look at your representatives in terms of that. It becomes pretty easy. Okay. Take a look at our county commissioners that we have currently and our county judge. Because I kind of suspect that they fail on those as well. Okay. Yes?
I would just encourage people to go to Commissioner's Court too.
Yeah.
I've been going, just taking points to go, and if you go in there and they're aware that they're being watched back. But there's just not enough of us that show up. And it's really simple. If you just go to, what is the website, County Commissioners, you can Google it, and you can pull up the schedule to find out when it is. And I have 3 children, so second and fourth Tuesday, she said. But if you don't show up, they think that nobody's watching them. But if you show up and you don't have to say anything, if you just sit there and you watch them and you take notes, trust me, it makes them nervous.
Yes.
Well, in a town hall meeting some time ago with Conway, he was a man of truth, because he said, I know you don't want me to vote for Boehner, but I'm going to do it because the real power is in the chairs of committees, and I don't want to lose the agricultural chair.
Okay.
So that's where I need to go. So that's why I'm supporting it, even though I know you don't want. And then he says, you people got to understand that you're in the most conservative district in the entire United States. But when I get up there, I don't deal with folks like you. You know, I deal with people very different. So I got to work around that kind of thing.
So, have you ever heard Louis Gohmert speak? Okay, so Louis Gohmert is probably one of the least popular guys in Washington because he doesn't say that. He says, I go to represent my constituents. Jeff Sessions, the guy who kind of blew the lid on this, he goes to represent his constituents for the most part. But our guy says that we have to surrender our rights because he can't negotiate on principle. And when he says he gets power, he funds an invasion of this country. not a man of truth. And it's easy to point out. Okay, one last thing, and then we'll kind of move on.
Well, I was just gonna say, they used to hold commissioners court at night.
Hmm?
And I think that they should go back to doing that one night,
Out of the month.
yeah,
Yeah.
every, other one.
I'd agree.
And it was full all the time that way. But they stopped it because they didn't want it.
Okay. All right.
So I think if you put pressure on them,
Okay.
one way or another, you can make them go back to putting a nighttime commissioners court.
And you also have the opportunity, because it's on video, you can go online and see the videos. Shoot them an email, ask them what they meant by certain comments, and see what you get back.
Yeah.
Okay? So there's all sorts of opportunities. I'm advocating more active engagement in the process, because if we don't, things are going to get very bad very quickly in the not too distant future. And we don't have anybody defending this just yet. Okay? So please go onto our website. If you want a copy of the no confidence vote that I've sent out, you can have that. Plus, it's got on the back side the information on the Judicial Watch findings.
No,
Oh, sorry.
when I went online and did that, I was on the third person.
Yep. So I've got about 20 now. So I would like to see it in the thousands. I'm going to start working to reach out to other groups in the district, because here's the thing: if we don't, we need to do something, because he's not listening. He's telling us what he's going to do, not the other way around.
Yeah, and especially get it out in some of the other districts, because right now he knows that county
He
doesn't
knows
really
we're not.
support.
We're not opposed. We're
When
not
you start
gonna do
getting
so.
out into some
Yeah.
of his outlying areas, and
Yeah.
then he may take notice.
All right. Did you guys want to do the raffle now or at the end? The end? Okay. Oh, one last thing. So, I'm sorry, it almost escaped me. So, when I found this thing from Judicial Watch about them funding the SNAP program, so when my wife and I went to Peru a couple of weeks ago, we flew through Mexico City. And on the screens there in Mexico City, guess what they're advertising in the airport? In Spanish. Because most English-speaking people wouldn't pay attention to it, but my wife did, Carla. What they're advocating is these groups that are very well funded that will help you get across the border into the United States and help you with assistance getting on food stamps, all welfare programs, stuff like that. And they were showing the vehicles and the things that they had. They had very nice four-wheelers and trucks and stuff to transport you to the border and help you get across the border. It's right there in our face, but we're not listening. And then one last thing, on Univision, Telemundo, these politicians go on to there, do Spanish language interviews, and they promise all sorts of freebie giveaways. Do you ever hear what comes out of those Spanish language interviews? My wife does. And what they're advocating in Spanish is not what they're advocating in English. Okay? So just be cognizant of, this is not a one-off. This is business as usual for these guys. It is a wholesale invasion of this country. And it's being funded by you and me. Whether it's profits to big companies and then they're taking it and dumping it back into La Raza, or they're just flatly in your face taking your tax dollars and giving it to these guys. Okay. All right, with that happy note, I'd like to move on. So, our guest tonight is Loren Spivack, and he is an economist. He has some very interesting perspectives on the economy and how things are working in the federal government. So with that, I would like to allow him to come up and speak, and then you guys can ask questions and do what you like. Okay?
Well, thank you guys so much for having me. It's great to be here, and I want to start off by endorsing what you're just talking about. It's one thing to have a rhino congressman in a swing district where the Republicans can barely hang on by 2 votes, But when you've got a solidly conservative district, it's absurd to have anything less than a representative who's going to represent that. So I don't live anywhere near here, but I heartily endorse it. My name is Loren Spivack, and I go by the nickname the Free Market Warrior because I travel the country from Maine to San Diego. I travel the country and talk to groups like yours about free market economics. I think the future of our country is in many ways dependent on our understanding of economics. And I don't think we understand it nearly well enough. A couple of years ago, I put together a seminar called Economic Literacy, which is a 2-night, 7-hour program where we learn economics for conservatives. We learn the facts of life, of how an economy does what it does, how America became the richest country in the world, things like that. And I've done this seminar about 300 times in 25 states. I've done it several times in Texas now. I just did it 2 nights ago in Harper, Texas, and several other places. And so my first mission here is, if you guys would like to have me back sometime, the next time I'm in Texas, if you got 2 nights, we can learn economics, and it's fascinating. There is no math. No math in economics. Okay? If the economics you got had math, they weren't teaching you economics. They were teaching you accounting. Okay? Economics is not about numbers, it's about human beings. It's about understanding how humans uniquely amongst all the species under the sun, how we make each other richer. And it's fun, and I would be happy to do that the next time I'm here. Well, I guess my thought for tonight is, in a more limited period of time, is what would you guys think about having a generation of conservative leadership in the United States of America? I'm not talking about an election. I'm talking about a generation, the next generation starting next year of conservative leadership, because I will tell you exactly how to do it in 2 easy steps. The first one is we got to win next year. But I'll tell you, I'm optimistic. You know, there's a natural ebb and flow to politics. I think people are sick and tired of the Democrats. I think the Democrats are heading toward a very weak candidate. I think the Republicans are much more likely to have a stronger candidate. Good chance we'll get that one. I mean, I don't personally control it, but I'm optimistic. So that's the first step already. You know what the second step is? Because I don't want to win an election and then just swing back and forth some more. I want a generation. My kids are growing up. I want a generation. And I'll tell you how you turn an election into a generation. Fix the economy. You fix the economy, everything else comes along with that. Okay? Allow me to throw a few historical examples at you. It's what Ronald Reagan did. Ronald Reagan came in. Do you remember what the economy was like in 1979, 1980? It was a disaster area. Reagan came in, he shrank the government, he cut the taxes. Guess what? Prosperity. Booming, record-breaking prosperity. And what happens to Ronald Reagan? He wins re-election by an historic history-making landslide. He converts Democrats into conservatives. You remember Reagan Democrats? He turned a whole generation. There was a piece in, I think it was even the New York Times. I was reading, linking on Drudge, but there was a piece about how there's no middle-aged Democratic leaders. The Democratic leaders are all old or young. And the point of the piece was that they were the people who grew up in the Reagan era. Okay? So there's all kinds of, drug dealers, terrorists, corporations. There's lots of suitcases full of $100 bills all over the world. And the question is, what will bring the money home to roost? If it sits out there, it doesn't affect inflation. It's when it comes home that it affects inflation. And the answer is, paradoxically, inflation. What causes inflation is inflation. See, as long as there's no inflation, then the money's holding its value, then this guy will be perfectly happy to leave his money in the suitcase in case he needs it. Okay? What happens when inflation starts to heat up? You get to 10% inflation, 15% inflation, 20% inflation. I think your tin horn dictator is going to say, having my dollars made sense when it was holding its value. Now it's losing value. I don't want the dollars anymore. I'm going to trade these in and get Swiss francs or gold or silver or euros or something, because the dollar is losing value, okay? I can't tell you at what point this happens, but at some hypothetical rate of inflation, there is a panic where people start dumping dollars, okay? And this is how 10, 20% inflation turns into 200, 300, 500% inflation, because all the money is like a brush fire. All the money comes in, and you see the dollar losing a great deal of value. This is like the second layer of inflation, where it's real, where it's all coming in, and it starts to plummet, okay? It's like a stock market panic, okay? Your stocks are collapsing, get rid of the stocks, as fast as you possibly can, and the collapse continues. If you having gotten this far, if you like, I'll take this one step further. What happens when the dollar collapses? Well, I theorize that if bread started to cost $20 a loaf, you could get some riots. What do you think? I think you could have some riots. And what will the government do if there are bread riots? And they'll call out the National Guard, declare martial law, I got that. But what else are they going to do? I would propose, and you tell me if you don't think this makes sense, I would propose that the politicians in Washington will say, the food stamps are not enough. $100 a week in food stamps worked when bread cost $2 a loaf. But now bread costs $20 a loaf. We need to up the food stamps. If we give people $1,000 a week in food stamps, instead of $2 a week, instead of $100 a week, then they'll be able to afford the bread, and they'll go home and quit rioting. Can you not see the government saying this? That's what I think they'll say. Here's the question: where will they get the money for the extra food stamps? They're going to print it. Okay? And this is how inflation is to governments kind of like smoking crack is to an individual. Once you get hooked on this cycle, it's really hard to get off of it, because the solution to the government will appear to print more money to solve the immediate problem caused by the fact that we printed too much money, and you are now officially a crackhead addict. And the government, and this is how you get to the Zimbabwe levels of inflation, where you start getting to, people have to spend their money, before lunch, because after lunch the prices will have gone up, 10 times already. That's the danger. Yes, sir.
How's that interplay with reserve currency status? If we lose reserve currency status, what?
Well, reserve currency simply means that the countries around the world, generally speaking, agreed that the one rock hard currency that you want to hold on to is the U.S. dollar. If the dollar collapses, then you're not going to have that. It's based on, we're living off a past reputation. Okay, I don't think it's possible to maintain reserve currency status when you're printing it recklessly, because obviously you're going to cause its devaluation. So that's a technical definition. I don't think the drug dealer who keeps his money in a suitcase because he can't put it in the bank because he's a drug dealer, I don't think he cares whether we're technically the reserve currency or not, but he knows when it's losing value as it sits there, and that's ultimately a measure of the same thing. So over there, are we good?
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys so much.